Hello viewers, welcome to another edition of AAU Talks on AAU Television. Today we are discussing career counseling, focusing on social work as a career choice. And with us in the studio is Dr. Ernestina Dankyi, a research fellow at the Center for Social Policy Studies at the University of Ghana, Legon. She has done extensive research on age-related vulnerabilities, especially in children and the aged. She has also authored and co-authored a number of publications specializing on the welfare of children and the aged. Welcome to the studio, Dr. Dankyi.
Thank you, Millicent.
Okay, so Doc, tell us, who is a social worker?
Thank you. Who is a social worker? A social worker is part of the people we call the helping professionals. They are in a category of profession called the helping professions. They are responsible for working with people, groups, communities, in ensuring that the people are able to cope with their problems and function well to improve upon their lives. So basically, a social worker will deal with an individual who is experiencing some kind of problem of a sort, be it education, be it health, be it coping with everyday life. So a social worker comes in, works with all the systems that is available, and by systems we are thinking of family as a social system. So for instance, if the family is malfunctioning or not functioning well, or the source of the problem is with the family, the social worker will have to go into the family, find out what the problem is, and then try to find resources to help this individual cope within the family. It could be a whole community. It could be working with a government institution or an accredited institution to help the individual cope with their problems. So that would be the work of a social worker.
So if we understand correctly, a social worker's responsibilities is not only limited to children and then the aged?
No, not at all. Okay. A social worker offers a wide range of services, and it's for everybody that has some kind of problem. When we think about the vulnerable, the children come to mind first, the aged come to mind first, but there are persons with disabilities. There are children children in school who have issues, children in a home who have issues, and the social worker doesn't deal with them as an individual. The social worker looks at the system that the individual finds himself as a whole. So there are various areas in which the social worker will be functioning. So even if a social worker is working with a child, there are times that the social worker is working with a child in the school system. So we'll have to make sure if the child is having difficulties, being bullied, the social worker would have to talk to a psychologist, will have to talk to a counselor. So we say that one of the roles of a social worker is a broker. It's supposed to broker relationships between the individual, the patient or the client, with any other person that the client may need, and has to make sure he finds the person for the client. So if the social worker realizes that this child is being bullied, or this child is not, or a teacher refers a child to a social worker, and the problem is that he's having difficulty, not learning difficulties, but difficulty fitting in the system, in the school system, and he goes ahead to find out it's the whole system, the whole school system, maybe there's something intimidating about it. He has to work with the authorities, has to work with psychologists, has to work with any resource that is available. He has to go find, he or she has to go and find the resources. If it means anything legal, he has to go out and find legal services for the client. So they offer, as we said, a wide range of services. Unlike some professions in the helping profession that may work with specific individuals or specific people on the specific issue. So maybe if I have a mental disorder, if it's dementia, then I know who to talk to deal with the dementia. But somebody who has dementia working with a social worker, the social worker has to go beyond the psychologist or psychiatrist or the therapist that is working with the individual and find out all the things within the social environment of the individual that could make the individual function well, and enlist all of these resources into play to make sure that the individual is settled and can function well. So it's a wide range of, yeah.
Is there a requirement for some specific qualifications to be a social worker?
Definitely. You have to have at least a bachelor's degree. You have to have a bachelor's degree in social work. And then usually I can talk for the University of Ghana, that's where I belong, and that's where I got my social work qualification. So you have a bachelor's degree, at least 3 years of studying social work. Now it's been extended to 4 years because they are starting in the first year. When I went to, in my time, we had to go to level 100, and then going to 200, we begin to choose courses. And that was when I was introduced to social work. So I had 3 years of, and it's 3 years intensive training in social work. You combine with something else, either sociology or psychology. After the 3 years, or after having your bachelor's degree in social work, you have to go on and become a licensed social worker. And in many jurisdictions, there are associations, accredited associations. So in Ghana, we have the Ghana Association of Social Workers. There is the whole Association of Social Work Practitioners that's global. So every jurisdiction have the associations, and after satisfying the requirements of the association, you are given the license to operate as a social worker. In some places, it's very, they are strict. You have to have the requirements before anybody allows you into their home or their office or their space to operate as a social worker. So the basic requirements is a degree. Then you can go on to do an MSW, which is Masters in Social Work. Add your license and you are good to go.
Okay, I doubt all social workers in Ghana or even Africa are qualified or have a bachelor's degree in social work. Are there any measures, any agencies or strict policies ensuring that?
In Ghana, there is the School of Social Work. It's a certificate program, and it was started by it was established by the Department of Social Welfare under the now Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection. So that is where they get a majority of their crop of social workers from. And these are people they have trained, tailored, and trained to suit their work environment. But that is not enough. They still have to come and have a bachelor's degree and then get a license. So you are right to say that many, or some of them, a good majority of them, are operating without the requisite qualification or license to operate, because there are places where people just go for a 3-day workshop, 2 weeks workshop in social work, specific cases. They come back and they are operating as social workers, unfortunately. But that is what is happening now in the environment we find ourselves. But it is not right. You are supposed to be licensed because you have a whole family, a whole system at stake. And if anything goes wrong, somebody could sue. And who will they be suing? And then if anything goes wrong, you don't just affect the individual, it has rippling effects on the whole system. So it has to be done right.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, viewers, this is AAU Talks, and we have been discussing social work as a career choice. With me in the studio is Dr. Ernestina Dankyi, and we've delved into who a social worker is. Before we continue, taking a quick break, and we'll be right back.
You may not have heard about us, but we have heard about you. You've been searching for a new kind of university that matches your ambition. Our world-class education is renowned, but there is more to us. Meet the university in Ghana that is transforming Africa. One that is nurturing a new generation of ethical, entrepreneurial leaders. One that offers scholarships thanks to the Mastercard Foundation, so that you can be part of our community of students who stand for integrity, discipline, and excellence. There is only one such university, only one, where 100% of graduates receive job offers or graduate school admissions. You may not have heard about us, but we have heard about you. You are Africa's future, and we are Ashesi University College. Together, we can begin to create a new Africa.
Okay, viewers, welcome back to AAU Talks, discussing social work as a career choice with Dr. Ernestina Dankyi, a research fellow at the Center for Social Policy Studies at the University of Ghana. So, Doc, in what areas or sectors can a social worker practice in Ghana, in Africa?
Thanks for the question. They are hospital social workers, so they are health social workers who work in the health environment, mainly hospitals, and you find them in big hospitals. So for instance, in Ghana, you find them in Kolibu, and all our large hospitals, that's where they operate.
What specifically do they do? What title are they given?
They are social workers.
They are social workers.
Yes, and they come in when, for instance, let me give you an example. So I work with the aged, so an older person is not well, comes to the hospital, has received treatment, and the person has to go home. The social worker will have to ensure that the home in which the person is going is fit for her to recover fully, because she has to go and continue treatment. So for instance, there has to be a caregiver, and it may depend on the circumstance of the person. They may need a living caregiver because they need 24-hour care. Because the person is aged, you have to also, or invalid, even a child or a young person who is invalid and not too mobile, you have to make sure that the space in which the physical space is also fit. So there are no obstacles or things in her way, or the person doesn't have to use the stairs up into their room. So all of that space have to be. And then if there is any assistance at all, for instance, in jurisdictions where they have health insurance to give medication, and the social worker will have to make sure that all of these are in place before. So that's what one of the things a health social worker will make. And if the social worker doesn't certify or doesn't say that the place is fit for purpose, the patient stays until they get that. So I have this favorite example where I had a 2-week internship, understudying somebody, a health social worker in the UK. And I always laugh when I talk about this, because there's this 80-year-old frail woman who has been unwell, and she's looking forward to being discharged. And so there is a meeting which I witnessed between the patient, the social worker, and 2 adult sons in their 60s of the older woman. And so the social worker briefs them about the condition at home and blah, blah. And then the woman said, yes, I'm ready to go home. And the 2 older sons said, no, she's not ready to go home. And then the social worker inquires, and they had already told him that there is no reliable caregiver at home as of the time they were arranging this. And the woman pops up and says that my boyfriend is there and she's going to take care of me. And her boyfriend, according to the sons, was a 70-something-year-old man who needs help himself. And the woman says, yes, she will. And the son says, no, we've seen this man in action. He's irresponsible. He's left her several times to go do things out, and then, so we are not going to let her go. And this was the tussle. I mean, everything was almost said. The physical space was cleared. The social worker could attest that everything was okay physically in the house. But now there was the problem of and in social work, the client has a right to self-determination. She knows what is good for her. She says that my boyfriend will take care of me. But for the objection from these other people, this could have been an all clear that then there's a caregiver. But then the son say, look, he's old, which the social worker has been briefed on. So that was another challenge. He's old. But the woman insists that she's the best person to take care of me. Then they come in to say he's irresponsible. So it means that the woman cannot go home. So true to form, she couldn't be discharged on that day. She was very angry. But then that is the work of the social worker. So he has to go back and make sure, in this case, he has to work with their social services to find out if there could be a caregiver, even if the person could work a few hours or work with his boyfriend of the woman to take care of the woman. He has to do that before the woman is discharged. So that's a social worker in the hospital or health setting. Similar rules are played in the school setting, in industrial organization, in geriatric homes that's working with the aged. You have to make sure that the system, the social environment, and the social environment is vast. It includes people, it includes activities, it includes norms, our values. You have to make sure that these are all in place. If you are leaving your client in a place where they don't take care of the aged, nobody cares, the aged are called witches and all of that, you have to make sure that this person is not going back into a situation like that. And you don't have to, you are not a magician, or you don't have all the answers. That is why we say social workers work with social systems. So where do I go to? Do I go to the Department of Social Welfare? Do I work with an NGO that is specializing in this area? Do I locate the person to a shelter? That is what the social worker is supposed to do. So case by case, they do they work with social systems to do this. Yeah.
So what do you think are the prospects of a social worker in Africa?
It's a profession. It's one, unlike many other humanities or social sciences programs that you have to finish and find out. Once you finish with, you become a professional, like a nurse, like a medical doctor, like a lawyer. So that is certain. If there is space for you to operate, you have your license, you become a professional. And there are many areas. I think that one of the disservice to us is the misconception of who a social worker is. I had a hard time explaining to my mother why I was doing social work. She was never proud. She just said, are you going to work with social welfare? And when you think about our social welfare system, and it's nothing attractive, you know, so the whole thought that she would tell people that her child is doing social work and she's going to work with social welfare, hurt her. But then it's more than that, and that is what we don't know. The prospects are many. You could work in a legal organization because the legal people need social work. If there's a custody situation, before a legal person can fully defend her client or otherwise, the social worker should go and see to it that and make sure that the children, the environment in which the children are going to live is safe. So for instance, if it's the woman who is asking for custody, full custody of the child, the social worker would have to go home, find out the physical space, talk to the children, find out whether they want to live with their mother as against their father. What are the reasons? Why are you opting for your father and not your mother? He does all these investigations. Even the wider neighborhood that they live in, the social worker has to make sure that because of the trauma, the divorce-related issues the child is experiencing, all these are set. Sometimes they even go into the schools to find out how their teachers are handling these children, whether they are treated like any other children, whether they are, you know, so the social worker has to make sure that this child who is going to custody after parental divorce is really safe. And that is different from any other profession in the helping profession. So the prospects are many. You can work in a medical environment, you can work in a school environment, in an industrial environment, you can work in an industrial environment.
Okay, so there's room for social workers in a corporate setting?
In a corporate setting. So in a corporate setting, you have, they may compete, a corporate organization may decide to have a psychologist or a counselor or a social work. They will all be doing about the same thing. Just that when it comes, it depends on, sometimes when they have specific issues, the counselor may have to come in. But then when they have wider issues like HR issues, somebody is not doing well at work, standards are, or the quality of output is failing over time, and you don't know what is wrong. The counselor sets in, or psychologist, talks to the individual, knows what the problem is. The social worker will have to, if they do have a social worker, work with, depending on the problem, the systems that are available, social systems, whether it's a person's home system, whether it's going to labor office, or to make sure that this person is sound and can function again at the workplace. So they have space everywhere that they are human beings working, human beings that are liable to having problems, and anywhere that there is a social environment, systems, because we work in systems. You don't just come to work. There are things, I mean, when even materials to work, the people you deal with, some people intimidate you and you can't work and all of that. So everywhere there are people, I don't want to use human being, people working, people who are prone to any challenges or problems at all. Ideally, there should be a social worker in that setting. So it's vast. It's not just the thought of social welfare handing handouts to the poor or throwing soup parties for orphans as we think about it, or a battered wife comes in, and no, the options are they are varied, and those are some of the prospects I can think about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any challenges associated with being a social worker or the field of social work?
Right. Well, again, I would like to single out the space that I am used to, and maybe it could extend to Africa or parts of Africa because of some of the similarities that we have in the way we operate our social organizations. But there are challenges working as a social worker in Ghana. In fact, not working, but to work. And one of them, which I learned in my first year of doing social work, is that we are ambivalent when it comes to the social work profession. Like I told you, my mother didn't see the need for me to study social work. As you say. People think they work as social welfare. But then all of these things that I have told you, we replace them, we get anybody at all to do. So your pastor is there, your pastor will counsel you when there is a problem. But sometimes, as I have indicated, it goes beyond just the one-on-one counseling. It goes to, it extends to broken relationship with where you can find resources, referrals and all of that, which your pastor, your mother-in-law, your friend, your peers, which we rely on largely for issues that social workers are supposed to do, cannot offer you.
So I think from what you are saying, we need to sensitize the public on
exactly
the roles of a social worker. Doc, we'll come back to the challenges, but before we continue with the challenges, a quick commercial break and we'll be right back.
Hello viewers, my name is Dr. Violet Makuku, a quality assurance specialist at the Association of African Universities and a projects officer. I bring you the research workshop, which is entitled Innovative and Quality Research for the 21st Century. This research workshop is very important because we are looking at the new methods of data collection and other aspects of research which are just contemporary. And this is a grand opportunity for you to come aboard. We will have this workshop in Zimbabwe at the Zimbabwe Open University building, Samora Machel Avenue, on the 28th to the 31st of May 2018. You are all invited, researchers, lecturers, students, those in non-governmental organizations, and anyone who feels like retooling their research skills and information. The mode of delivery is face-to-face, and we are going to have a competent facilitators for this workshop. I will also be one of the facilitators, and I hope from my continental exposure, you will also benefit a lot from what I gathered through the different countries that we have in Africa. The fee that is being charged for this event in 4 days, it's 350 for Zimbabweans, the locals. Internationals, we have 2 categories. Those who are non-AAU members, they pay $450, and those who are AAU members, they pay $400. I'm talking in terms of US dollars. And in addition to that, you will get a certificate, which is something we all need for recognition. But this registration fee does not cover transport from your area or even accommodation. These are personal arrangements. It will only cover the conference expenses. Thank you.
Welcome back, viewers. This is AAU Talks, and we've been discussing social work as a career choice. With us in the studio is Dr. Ernestina Dankyi, a research fellow at the Center for Social Policy Studies at the University of Ghana, Legon. And before the break, she was telling us about the challenges associated with being a social worker. So, Doc, so apart from pastors and counselors taking the role of social workers, what are the other challenges the field faces?
Okay, thank you. So year in, year out, the university, social work is run at the University of Ghana and then also at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology.
Okay.
Every year, hundreds, or maybe 100, a minimum of 100, are graduated in social work. The government of Ghana is the highest employer. They absorb because of all the places at the district level, all the places that social workers can be. But for some time now, there has been a ban on recruitment. So that has also affected how many people can go into practice. And you can't wait too long, so they go into other fields. You find them in the banks, not working as bankers, social workers, but they are working as bankers or working in the bank and doing something else. So it is very, very easy to find people who have a degree in social work doing all sorts of other fields, things that are not related to the field of social work.
Okay, but Doc, if it's so difficult finding a job after reading social work in our universities, why are we still studying social work?
Well, it's difficult finding a job for everybody currently, but then we won't stop running those programs. These are peculiar, so I've talked about the peculiarity of social work because of our attitude, because of our ambivalence, because we don't see the value, because we think there are so many people that are doing the work that social workers should do. Once that is changed and we find out that there is the need or there is a need for social workers, we'll begin to absorb them as we ought to, so that so the issue of not having employment opportunities applying to every other discipline shouldn't stop us. The issue of us not knowing the value or exercising that we know the value, so we bring them in, shouldn't also stop us. We are evolving as a society. I'm sure now we are beginning to hear about social work. It didn't used to be like that some time back. As I mentioned, once government is there, if this ban is also lifted, another challenge is that the tendency to take any body who has graduated in any field at all and give them 2-week training, 3-week training, and fit them into the position of social workers is also another challenge that we are dealing with. And I think that it all boils down to the fact that why do we need a social worker? We just need somebody to do this. We give them 2-week training, maybe get faculty from the social work department to run some training for them, and they take them on, you know. And then also, I mentioned that a social worker works with social systems and resources. That's another challenge. So you go to social workers at the Department of Social Welfare in the districts anywhere, and they are having logistics problem because they are supposed to be. It's not a desk job. Social work is not a desk job. You are supposed to be going into places, linking with the right people, and then linking with the right resources. In a case where resources are hardly available, this becomes difficult. In some jurisdiction, the example I gave about this older woman, they just have to go to the Department of Social Service or whatever they call it, and they will arrange to send you a caregiver, somebody who would come in a couple of hours in a day. We don't have it in our system. You don't even know where to go.
Why don't we have it in our system? Why is the system of the Western world with regards to social services so different from ours? What are we not doing right, or what are we doing wrong?
Millicent, that's a very tough one. I don't want to be. But to be safe, I think that there are levels. That's why they are called developed. And we are still, these things are expensive. Rights are expensive. I mean, all of these things that a social worker works to get people to, so getting a caregiver, getting these resources and all, are their rights. The people have the right to. If I'm a battered woman, if I have to be relocated somewhere for me to be safe for about 3 months, get counseling and all, it's my right. But rights are expensive. They have to be funded. And I think that is where that challenge will come from. The unavailability of resources that social workers will work with may be an issue of unavailability of funding or priority, as some people may say. But then I will link it to, it's expensive. And that is why you have it in such jurisdictions that are, we call them developed, because they are way ahead. Hopefully we will get, that's why I'm saying that we don't have to stop studying social work because we are not finding the need or we are not finding resources for them to work with. We will get there, I believe so. And then once we get there, we have the foundation, we have the training, we have excellent courses at the University of Ghana, same as KNUST. They are being well trained so that when it comes to the point where we are really ready for them, we don't have to go and start from the scratch. So it is very important to note this. So the ambivalence, the lack of opportunities to work, and then the resources to work with, because you can employ a social worker if you don't give them the resources. and not just giving them a car to go into the field. But for instance, if she needs a caregiver for somebody, she needs a shelter for somebody, she needs to get a counselor for somebody, legal services for somebody, and it's not available because it can't be funded, then what do you do to the social worker? She becomes a desk social. She has all the ideas, she knows all of the places to go to, but hey, she can't function. So those are some of the challenges that.
So how can these challenges be mitigated?
The challenges about the ambivalence, like you rightly mentioned, sensitization. And that's why I'm grateful for this platform, that at least one person that hears me will know that social work goes beyond soup kitchens and
Department of Social Welfare.
Exactly. But then there is a lot more. It should be attractive to the young, to people. And then once people begin to know that it was a lot more than that, people will begin to, because if you have a heart for people, you choose to become a nurse, a doctor. Some people will not want to work in a hospital because of blood and all of that, but she has a heart to help people. So she will be in the environment and work with all the systems available to make sure that this person functions well. If we begin to know that this is what we do as social workers, and there are so many areas that we can work with, then the issue of the ambivalence will gradually be taken care of.
I think with that issue, the government will play a very major role in sensitizing the public. Or don't you think so?
That will be taking it a bit too far. The government can do its part by absorbing the people that are trained.
Okay.
So don't take people, give them 3-day training, 4-day training, 1-week training, and put them somewhere. Go to work with the universities, the Department of Social Work at the university. Talk to them, Department of Social Work at KNUST. How many people are coming? Because as part of our training, we have 8 weeks field work when you get to level 300. And we work with all these agencies. They include government agencies, so they know we exist. So when these people have come into your space for 8 weeks to do field work, and they finish level 400 or they graduate, come for them. And don't pick people that you have trained for 2 weeks and 6 weeks. So that is I think that is the best way governments can help, by absorbing the people, so that it becomes, because once I'm thinking, well, I finished practicing social, I'll go and stay in a bank anyway and work. So why don't I do any of those courses and apply and compete with every other person? Why would somebody do social work as a profession? But if you know that you'll be absorbed, and government is the biggest, there are so many places government of Ghana can employ social work and put them in the hospital, the schools, the district offices, not to talk about the NGOs. If government is doing this, then people will think, oh, there is a job for me. I become a professional. I get my license. So that is the way it can help. Sensitization, I think I'll put the onus on the training institutions.
Okay.
The University of Ghana, KNUST. Because how many people within the university environment know about social work? How many of them know what it is?
But so far, is it only the University of Ghana and KNUST that offers social work as a course in Ghana?
In Ghana, okay. Is the University of Ghana and then KNUST. And I also mentioned the School of Social Work, which is not degree. It's not towards a degree. So even when you go to the School of Social Work, you have to come back and do a degree. Then there's Social Administration. It's a diploma course. I think Methodist University runs that.
Okay.
But then you still have to come and do a degree in social work. So these two institutions, and I think that the onus lies on them to do the sensitive, even within the space, university space. There are how many thousands of students in there. I'm not sure if we did an opinion poll, we will get maybe, I don't know what percentage you get. I never knew. I was in the university for 1 whole year. I didn't know about social work. When we had to choose courses in level 200, then I said, and the in thing then was to do business administration. So I was really working hard to get to do business. And then somebody said, oh, why don't you do social work? I've known you for some time. I think you have the heart to. The person suggested a nurse. I said, no, I can't work with. Said, do social work. I never knew there was a course like that until I stepped in the social work classroom in level 200. And I totally loved it because it's about helping people. And I know there are people like that. They are doing all sorts of courses, but what they really want to do is to be in a profession that they're able to extend help to people, but they don't know about it.
I remember when I was in the university,
yeah.
People do social work. The combination of social work and sociology was called social. So And people who offered, you say social, and they say they meaning they are sleeping, because people tend to think that it's a very easy course, you can easily pass, no difficulty. And as you said, they don't think of practicing it as a profession. They think, okay, let me just make the grade, and then I can go out and work in the bank.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. So if you want to make a first class, go and do social. So
go and do social.
So and it's because there's a lot of reading, and then those who are good at reading, they learn by rote and they write and then they pass. But then it's true, it's those who do not intend to practice. When I was doing social work, there were, I think about 80% of the people were older than us, than the young ones who were, because they were teachers already, they were working in the Department of Social, and they wanted this to go and practice. Those of us who didn't know about it, some dropped. When we got to level 300, you had to justify, you had to get a particular grade point to go on with social work. And some gladly dropped it because they didn't see the essence of it. But the older people who had come, who knew what they wanted, their nurses, teachers, they came, they stayed. And a few of us who liked what we were doing also stayed with them. So there is this whole, and even the thing about, once again, the government of people who are teachers come to do social work, they go back into the schools and they are not seen as school social workers. They are not made to operate. They still go back to teach. They are not acknowledged. They go back to the nurses.
Maybe because there's no room for them to operate as school social workers.
If you find the need for them, you will make room for them. But then so they go and then all they have is social work. Maybe they will use it later somewhere, but in the schools that they teach, they are not acknowledged. Most of the time, they are not acknowledged as having a social work degree, and that could be an added advantage to the school. Nurses go back and still operate as nurses, hoping to use the social work. And UK, or most European countries I know about, are very serious about, especially UK, serious about social work. So most of these people would also do social work, go and do their MSW, and they stay. And you practice social work very well out there. The example I give you was, and I was amazed. I said, wow, I've done social work for 4 years. I went to do 8 weeks of internship. I didn't see anything as rigorous as this. I mean, the meetings, the things they had to go through, the processes, the things the social worker had to do ahead of the meetings. So, wow. So some people also do it. They go out there, do their MSW, and they get to, but then because they've gotten the foundation here, and what we have here is good, it's easy for them to fit in, do their MSW, and stay. So when you come back and you are not acknowledged, how do you give up your best? So the government has to absorb the people we are training. We have to make a lot of noise as social work institutions, the University of Ghana. Now they are giving to, when you come to school, level 100, it's part of the courses you are giving. I find it, there is a pros and cons. The pros is that, well, so they are exposed to social work early, so that they make that decision. So now a lot of level 100 students will know about social work because they are offered social work. But I preferred our system, where you go in, even work hard, so that it was just like any other.
Understand the course.
Exactly, because if you don't throw nursing, if you don't give nursing to anybody at all that comes, if you don't give medicine or law to anybody at all that comes to the university, why do you do that to a social worker? That's a profession too. So I wanted a system, I liked the system where we came in, we were told about it, we worked hard. Those who didn't like it, dropped it. Those of us who wanted, worked hard to get it. But now it's given to them, and when you ask them, they gave me social work. Because she doesn't, and so they treat it like any other course, and they are in a hurry to get to level 200 to drop it. You know, so these are all some of, so if the university is treating this as any other profession like nursing, medicine, law, teaching, then it will be attractive. So the government has a role to play. Then the association, we have an association of social work students on campus. When I went, we only went to an orphanage. So the whole idea of we work in orphanages, when I went to level 200, we went to an orphanage, and another time we went to another shelter. So the whole idea of, you know, so the association also has to, when there is ASO week, we have to take advantage and do a lot of things, sensitization, make it as
so ASO week in University of Ghana during my time was just having, how they call it, seminars, indoor seminars.
That's what I'm talking about. How many of you, how many people will know about it? And then the whole impression of social welfare stays. And that is not it. People are doing well. People can. It's a job that you can't even get in the UK. You have to work hard to, because it's prestigious. But around here, they gave me social work, and then they go. And then ASO is not making much noise. And then the Ghana Association of Social Workers, at the national level, they also have to make some noise, have seminars. There are a lot of media houses. Get into them, let them talk about it, phone-in program. I think we have to do a lot of sensitization, because parents are not encouraging their children to do social work.
Even the students themselves, most of them don't know the career options for them as social workers. Yes.
Social workers. But when you come to level 200, one of the first things you do, the intro to social work, where you are told the skills you need. You have to be empathetic, you have to have a good listening ear and all that. Then we also, that is the time when they tell you the settings. But that's too late. The person's already in there. But then if as part of even the career guidance, the orientation week,
yeah,
the Department of Social Work or ASO decide to make a forceful move, a presentation, something that make the people, Radio Universe, make people, the students know that this is also as hot as law, as hot as admin, as hot as nursing. Then they will come in. So I think sensitization is key, and government absorbing the people is also very, very, very key.
Very key. Okay. So now that we have discussed the challenges, most people will be frightened. Most students will be frightened. Others, aspiring social workers, will be frightened. What are your final words for them?
There is nothing to be afraid of. I think knowledge is power. Okay. Getting to know about it is better than not knowing. As we have been saying, so if you've been listening to us from the beginning of the program, we are saying that social work is not social welfare. Social welfare is just a part of the things that social workers will do or even work in. It also goes beyond the soup kitchen and working in orphanages, which most people are afraid of. Their options are varied, and there are many. You can work in a school. You can work in a health environment. You can work in a legal environment. You can practice on your own. In some places, you have social workers who are practicing privately. They do psychotherapy. They diagnose, they're able to do some diagnosis. They train, so they're able to do some diagnosis. And they are working with all these people in a daily basis, in their life, in a typical day in the life of a social worker. He works with so many places and so many people.
But with psychotherapy doesn't have to do with psychology.
So you have to get additional training.
Okay.
Some additional training, because you have your social work license, you get some additional training in psychotherapy, so you can run therapies too. So there are people practicing. So the options are many. You can go on and become a school social worker, licensed social worker in mental institutions. There are many. As I said, anywhere you have people working, and people are prone, everything. Look, there are poverty. If you work, there is so much work for social workers in our parts of the world, because poverty is a big deal here. And some of our social problems emanate from poverty.
But what's the difference between a social worker and a psychologist?
You could ask that for a social worker in psychiatry, social worker and a counselor. And so they are all part of the body we call the helping professions. They are responsible for making sure that the people that they work with are able to cope with their day-to-day problems or day-to-day life challenges, and are able to function well and improve on their own lives. So that body of work we call helping professions are responsible for this. Their functions overlap to a large extent, because if a social worker is running therapy, psychotherapy, the psychology is running, so they may even be competing for the same clients or for the same people. The difference between the social worker and any of these is the fact that the social worker, and just like the name suggests, works with social systems. So I can envisage a situation where a psychologist or a counselor will deal with a child who is traumatized, and then may say that we need a social worker, because the social worker has to go home, as I said, has to broker a relationship with some other resources, maybe department. The counselor is not obliged to do this. The counselor, the psychologist is not obliged to do this, but the social worker is obliged to go out there and work with all the systems that are available. So one-on-one or dealing with families, they could be competing with all of these. But when it comes to making whole, as I would want to, for want of a better word, where they have to make sure that Now we have dealt with the individual. What about all the things that, the factors that feed into the individual's well-being? How do we do it? That's when the social worker is stronger, because she has the competence as a broker to broker the relationship with the right persons. She has the competence to go into social services, whether it's Department of Social Welfare, wherever the resources are. She has the competence to go there, make reports. Report writing is a big deal, part of our work. Interview the right people. Make sure that this person that the psychologist has attended to, that is out of the trauma, doesn't go back and relapse. So
for the aspiring social workers, there's no need to be scared.
No, there's
nothing to be afraid of.
Nothing to be afraid of, nothing to be discouraged about. And don't say, I was giving social work. We say that because, well, if you don't place a value, if you don't know the value of something, then you treat it anyhow. But social work is a big deal. It will take time, sometimes, for us to come to where they are. And sometimes, let me add, we think that it's foreign, getting a social worker to do. But look, social work starts with us. We are more communal as without Africa, Ghana. We are more communal. So social work actually started with us. So I know some colleagues who are working on indigenizing, because most of the theories, and because they documented and use it in the way they do, most of our readings and it's from the West, theories and all of that. So it makes, how does this fit into our situation and all that. So some people are working on indigenizing it. And we can think about the South African philosophy, Ubuntu. I am because you are. That's social work. It's a South African philosophy, but that's social work. I am because you are, just helping somebody, telling somebody, I'm here, don't be afraid. That's the work of a social worker, basically.
So you don't have to be, is very necessary.
It's key. So I am very grateful for this platform, that anybody hearing us, social work is a big deal. Helping somebody to function is a big deal. Helping somebody improve on their life, making sure that the person operates in a safe system, it's a big deal. And there is nothing to be afraid of. I think anybody who wants to go to social work should do that with head held up high, because you'll be doing a lot of good to society.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Dankyi,
for
passing through and for enlightening us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very
Thank
grateful.
you for the opportunity. Thank you for AAU for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, viewers, this has been AAU Talks on AAU Television. Today we have been discussing social work as a career choice, and Dr. Dankyi, Dr. Ernestina Dankyi from the University of Ghana, Legon. She's a research fellow at the Center for Social Policy Studies, has assisted us with a discussion of who a social worker is, and then prospects of social work and some challenges the field encounters. Her final words was to encourage us that social work is responding to the social needs of people in society, especially people with vulnerabilities. So if you intend doing social work, it's a good cause, and just carry on. So thank you very much for watching us. Please stay tuned for other programs. I am Millicent Afriyie.